Stress is killing you and killing your gains, but only if you believe that stress is going to kill you and kill your gains. Stress is only bad for you if you believe that it's bad for you. It is not inherently good or bad. Actually, if you adopt a mindset that stress is good for you, it will manifest in your body as so. What I'm telling you right now is change your mindset from stress being a bad thing to stress being a good thing and see what happens in your life and in your fitness goals. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Kayvman Show, episode 20. We are moving through the 10 block of mental game sessions. So we're talking about the mental game of fitness, how that's going to make or break you, how you can use mental techniques, mindsets, tips, tricks to elevate your fitness game and ultimately elevate your life as well. We're trying to, keep it edgy and cutting edge, talk about things that either you haven't heard before or you didn't listen to properly, and that will actually make a huge difference in both your life and your fitness. Today, we're talking about stress. Okay, stress. This is one of those buzzwords you always hear about, especially in the fitness and health community. People don't know what they're talking about. Experts, people who spent 20 years in grad school talking about stress management. Do not try to manage your stress. That is a waste of your time. This is one of the biggest problems that I think my generation have, is this idea that stress is bad and we need to manage it or lower it. And we need to meditate. Meditation is great. You should be meditating, but not to lower or manage your stress. What you really need to do with stress is reframe it. And before we get into stress specifically, I'm going to tack on from what we did and talk about mindset. The word mindset is a big deal, and it's something you need to learn about 100%. Everyone needs to learn what mindset is. A kid in school needs to learn about mindset. Mindset is basically not just thinking. It's a mental framework, a mental structure, a belief system that makes a difference in terms of the results you get from your behaviors. They inform your behaviors and the results you get. It's a whole mental framework, a mental structure, right? And it's a belief system. And it's a belief system that will make a difference, right? So you can have a negative mindset and you can have a positive mindset, but it's a belief system that affects results in your life. Most people have too much of a negative mindset and not enough of a positive mindset. We all believe in a positive mindset, but that's a little bit vague. What we really need to do is adopt very specific mindsets that make specific differences in our life. The first one I'm going to talk about today has been proven by science. There's plenty of data to back this up, and you can Google to research this as much as you like. I can put links in the show notes if you guys are interested. The first mindset we're going to talk about today is the stress mindset, and that the stress is good for you. Now, a lot of you will hear that and say, yeah, great, stress is good for you. That's a positive belief system. Very good, thank you. Let me go into the details. There was a study done, a long-term study done, and it was trying to quantify levels of stress in people's life and then health outcomes, primarily death, mortality. And they asked two questions and tracked to see when people died. It's Halloween, so it's fine. The first question they asked is, are you stressed? And they did this with hundreds of people, so it was a relatively big study. Are you stressed? One. Okay, and you can answer that for yourself now. Second question, do you believe stress is good or bad for you? And genuinely, what do you genuinely believe in your heart? Not what would you like to believe? What do you actually believe? Is stress good for you or is stress bad for you? Then they tracked to see how long people lived. This was a long-term study. I applaud that because not a lot of studies have that type of patience. They waited to see when people died, right? Now, what they found is that people who said they were stressed died earlier, but only if they believed that stress was bad for them. The people who said that they were stressed and believed that stress was good for them lived longer. Okay? I actually think that you can double check this, but I actually think that they live longer than anyone else, right? And so what that study points to is the fact that stress inherently not a killer, but believing that stress is bad is a killer, right? And this is a running theme through this podcast. That social conditioning, that social belief is everywhere. Stress is bad. Stress is going to kill you. Be afraid of cortisol. Lower your stress. Meditate. Get massages. And obviously, it doesn't necessarily feel good to be stressed. I totally understand if you want to run away from stress. And there are definitely situations you need to walk away from. There's a difference between toxic situations and stress. A toxic workplace and just having a lot of work or pressure at work. And the way you're going to decipher between those two, a toxic situation you should walk away from, right? Just like toxic foods and toxic people. You should walk away from them, get them out of your life. However, how do you know if a situation is toxic or if it's just you're stressed? Life can get stressful sometimes. If you try to live a life that is stress-free, you will probably be even more stressed. Because that's just not how life works. You can't run away from everything. You can't hide. You can't wrap yourself in cotton wool or a plastic bubble and hope that life will be kind to you. You need to be prepared for stress and roll with the punches. The way you're going to do that is by adopting this mindset that stress is good for you. There was a great book written about stress, and it basically detailed the fact that there is a response that your body gets that's natural and inherent in our biology, in our DNA. It's not something you need to create, but it is something you will get better at. And there's two responses that we can get from stress. There is a defeat response and there is a challenge response, right? And that challenge response is like a challenge accepted response. And that defeat response is, oh no, this situation is stressful. I'm caving in the pressure. I'm going to lose. The difference between those two things is essentially when you are stressed about something, you can either say yes or no. I'm happy for this stress to be here. Or I can say, no, I don't like this stressful situation. Let me get out of this situation. Let me get away from this stressful situation. Or let me just sort of shut down. Both of these things are adaptive. So there's another key theme of this podcast is using evolutionary psychology and biology to inform how things work and how to get the best out of yourself. Evolutionarily, both of those responses are adaptive. The yes challenge accepted response is adaptive because it means that in a stressful situation, you get more resources, right? So your cortisol will go up, which will pump adrenaline through your system and get you ready for action. Your testosterone will go up, a whole cascade of hormones, including oxytocin, which is a bonding hormone. So that's another thing. Like people tend to think of testosterone, cortisol, oxytocin as all kind of being mutually exclusive. Either you're stressed or you're bonding with people. It's not true. Actually, especially women, but men too, stress can make you bond with people. It actually brings the tribe together. So this is all adaptive. You get all of these positive hormones that bring the best out of you, make you rise to the occasion, get energy out of you, that get you firing, they get you sharp, that make you stronger, but also bond you to people, bond you to your family, bond you to your friends, right? You work as part of a team to get over this stressful situation. You know, if there's a flood, or if there's famine, or if there's some marauding tribe, or if there's a saber-toothed tiger, those are things that we used to face. But nowadays, maybe it's a stressful situation at work, you know, where the company isn't doing well, or something happened with the family. Somebody got hurt or sick. These things do happen, unfortunately. But you have to rise to the occasion. The way you do that is by saying yes. It's called the challenge response. This challenge response is only available if you lean into the stress. And that will only happen if you believe that stress is good for you. And the way you believe that stress is good for you is you understand this challenge response. You understand that you have resources inside of yourself that will not be triggered unless you're in a stressful situation. Stress is good because it brings the best out of you. It brings something out of you that you otherwise would not be in touch with. Stress brings out your best self if you lean into it. This goes across the board. There are stressful situations all over the place. You can either be afraid of them and try to run away from them, or you can lean into them and say yes to them and see what comes out, right? You're not going to really know the reward of these stressful situations unless you lean into it in the first place. So there does take an act of faith there, right? A stressful situation happens, something bad at work happens, or a workout, right? A stressful workout. We'll come back to fitness. Just a difficult workout, right? You won't know what the reward is until after you get through that situation. So it does take an act of faith to say yes to a stressful situation. It's very easy for me to sit here and tell you to do it, and it's very easy for you to listen and say, okay, I'm going to start saying yes to stress from now on. There is an act of faith there, because when you see that situation, your instinct, especially because we've been trained to believe that stress is bad and nothing bad should happen to us, is going to be to shy away from it. Your initial conditioned response is going to be fear and frustration and anger, right? Train yourself out of that. Otherwise, the other response is this defeat response. I'm defeated. That includes frustration and anger and all that negativity. The situation does become toxic when you say no to it. I don't want to be stressed. I don't want this difficult situation to be here. When you say no to it, which is very human, it's very normal and common, but it's not good. I wouldn't advise it. That's there because that's adaptive too. You're basically saying, I can't win in this situation, so the best thing I can do is cower and huddle into the fetal position and hope that the situation takes mercy on me and leaves me alone. If it's like a bully or whatever, if I just cower away from them and huddle up tight because I'm scared of them, they'll leave me alone. In my life, I can think of maybe one or two situations where that did happen. Most of the time, it didn't, right? It wasn't a good response. It wasn't a helpful response. It would have been better if I'd risen to the occasion. And in situations where I did rise to the occasion, whether it's a person who's bullying you or just life, it would have been better to have the challenge response. But there is an adaptive function there. Your body and brain are telling you, if you just sort of play dead and give up, at least you'll survive. It's thinking about survival. If I just cower and I accept defeat, then maybe my life won't be very fun and my quality of life will go down, but I'll survive. So it goes into survival mode. You got your challenge response, which is saying yes to stress and thriving. Stress actually makes you better over time. Then you got your kind of defeat survival response. These are two very different paths that you can go on. They probably start very close together. But over time, and especially over the course of your life, those situations will take you in two very different. One is a life of adventure and one is a life of playing it safe and just feeling like a loser. I would advise that you start saying yes to stress. Bringing it back to fitness, we know that fitness is stress. It is a stress response from the body. This is hard. You don't have to say, I don't like this. You can say, I love it. Like I've said in previous episodes, you got to love fitness. And the way you do that is by saying yes to stress, because fitness is stressful. You will need to recover from your stress. But that process it's a natural process of stress response, saying yes to it, conquering or at least learning from that stress, and then recovering from it. These natural cycles, that's what you want, will only happen if you go with the flow of these things and say yes to these things, right? That's why loving your fitness is so important, because it's the same as saying yes to stress and a completely different cascade of hormones physically. I'm talking about physically. A whole different set of resources are available to you when you say yes to stress. It will increase your recovery. It will increase your strength in the workout, right? All the positive hormones that you want will be there for you when you say yes to stress, and all the negative ones, being stressed out, like too much cortisol, various other ones, I won't get into all the tiny details, but that defeat response will be there if you say no to things. So you have an option and you can play with this. You can even play with saying no to things versus saying yes to things. Your workout is going to be a very safe place for you to play with this. Life is a little bit more chaotic. Your workouts, generally speaking, maybe if you're doing MMA and sparring, that might be slightly stressful, but really not even that. Working out is a perfect sort of laboratory for you to play with this stuff. That's why I love working out so much. Why I'm both a fitness coach and a life coach. Fitness is a play place where you practice before you get into the arena of life. I don't want to ramble too much. I think I gave you what you needed. just to keep it super simple, the RX for today is say yes to stress and stressful situations. Lean into things where your conditioning might tell you you don't like it. Lean into the hard stuff. And when you know something hard is coming, take a second and make sure you're saying yes to it in your body and mind. Experiment with it. See what the difference is when you consciously say yes to difficult and stressful situations. Be experimental with it and let me know what happens. I'm curious to see, does this stuff work or not? That wraps up the stress mindset. We're going to carry on with mindsets next time with the growth mindset, which a lot of people have already, but we're going to touch on too because it's super important. And yeah, curious to know what you guys think and if it helps. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.